this is the weirdest husband I've ever met. Just finished working out, immediately dragged his wife to the bathroom. The wife was so scared that she didn't know what to do. It wasn't because she was afraid of what her husband would do to her. It was because the towels in the bathroom weren't neatly arranged. It turns out that the husband is extremely obsessive-compulsive. If the towels were even slightly messy, would make him furious. Then May, his wife, went into the kitchen to put all the cans. All the cans were arranged neatly. Even the labels were the same. Her husband was so pleased with May's attitude. He rewarded her with a slap on the wrist and told her to prepare her lunch. Then, bored, she came to say hello to her neighbor. They chatted for a while and then the husband went home. When he returned home, he complimented his neighbor on his youth and good looks, and that he liked to watch you from the balcony. Then he slapped her again, and then a grim apology to Xiao Mei. Then he suggested the two of them and the neighbor would go sailing together in the evening. Xiao Mei knew her husband was trying to use the opportunity to kill the neighbor, and if she didn't agree, she wouldn't survive the night. So she agreed to her husband. After dark, the three of them took the boat out to the sea. Before her husband could do it, suddenly the wind and rain started to blow. At that moment the husband was blown off the boat by the wind. The neighbor struggled to hold on to him. When the husband was rescued, he found that Xiao Mei had disappeared. The husband was calling out for her, because she knew that Xiao Mei couldn't swim at all. Rescue then arrived at the scene. After some troubleshooting, Mei must have been killed. A few days later her husband held a funeral for her, but on that very day, he received a phone call. This day he received a phone call, saying that it was the swimming instructor, because the coach could not contact his wife, so he asked himself to ask if his wife still wanted to apply for the card. The husband then replied that he had called the wrong number, because his wife had been imprisoned by himself. How could she have access to the outside world? But then the coach said, "Did your wife study gymnastics at university?" And every time she came to training, she had a lot of bruises on her body, but he always said it was a fall from gymnastics practice. At that moment, the husband realized. It seemed that the coach was telling the truth. The husband then drove back home. He knew that Mei might still be alive. After a rummage through the house, he found their wedding ring in the toilet. He was sure his wife wasn't dead at all, and that she had learned to swim secretly without his knowledge. Before he got married, his husband was a good man, but after they got married, he showed his true colors. He had to be domestically abused almost every day, and he had to put up with a whole host of his idiosyncrasies, and he threatened that if he ever left her, "I'll kill you even if you go to the ends of the earth." She had no choice but to learn how to swim in secret. She also prepared her escape plan in advance. She had a plan to run away on a trip to the sea. I thought it would all go smoothly, but the ring was discovered by her husband. Then the husband started asking for information about himself, and Mei had already gone back home. On the way, she met a man, Curly. They fell in love at first sight. The husband here, he found May's mother's old nursing home. She finally managed to find out from the director. She found out where Xiao Mei's family lived, and also told her Xiao Mei's mother was now blind. She is currently in hospital for treatment, and Xiao Mei disguised herself as a man. She came to the hospital to visit her mother secretly. The mother almost didn't recognize her after touching her for a while. The mother found that her daughter had grown a beard. Her daughter said she was now an actress. The mother then believed that she was her daughter. When she was about to leave, she saw her husband in the hospital. Luckily, Mei managed to avoid it. She didn't let her find her. He came to his mother-in-law, lying that he was his wife's boss. He said he had an urgent request for him. As a result, his mother-in-law believed his story, saying that my daughter had just left. Although I don't have his phone number, but I know where he lives now. When my mother-in-law had finished talking, he was going to cover him with a pillow, but the nurse interrupted him. And here's Xiao Mei is still in love with Curly. The two of them were having a great time at the amusement park, but her husband was watching all this. After their date, Curly drops Mei off at home. Mei tells her to wait outside to wash her fragrance. Xiao Mei was taking a bath. She saw the towels hanging on the wall. They were all neatly placed. This scared Mei silly. It reminded her of her violent husband. Then he went to the kitchen. He opened the cupboard and saw the cans were also neatly organized. At this moment, Mei was completely panicked, and her husband crept up behind her. He threatened her with a weapon. She told her to open the door now. He hid behind the door. She was ready to shoot Curly, but she doesn't come in. She breaks in. She was knocked out by her husband. She went up to Mei and apologized, but Mei didn't listen to her and kicked her in the face. Then she picked up her weapon and pointed it at the scumbag. Just as Mei thought. When she thought it was all going to end, her husband grabbed her by the hair. He took the weapon and aimed it at her head, but Mei had already shot all the bullets. In the end, Xiao Mei and Curly were together, and the scum of the earth falls to the ground forever. If it were you, how many times would you shoot the scumbag? The title of the film Sleeping with the Enemy, an early work by Julia Roberts. Courage is the motivation to move forward, no matter how dark and miserable life gets us. Never lose the courage to live. Although this is an old film, but it's still a great film.